What talk about the medical side of it, not just uh, your experience as the first responder medical professional, but your experiences on the table. But I do have just a side question about I do have plenty of experience. 8 years in the Navy. I made it to second petty officer second class, and I do notice that once you make chief, you put those khakis on or whatever I don't even know what they went kind of through this weird OCD uniform thing for the last few years. But what they pull did you have to go do those career rounding duties? Like, did they pull you from Marine Battalion to put you in like the division head or the division chief for OBGYN at the Naples Hospital or something like that?
Now, I never worked at the hospital, never worked on a ship. So I went and I started in the infantry, and I did as a brand new junior corpsman, and did 6 years of, or I did 3 years of infantry work, and I screened and interviewed and everything to go work at the Marine Reconnaissance Battalion, where I spent 6 years and really did a lot of growing up and deployed out of there in Afghanistan and some other stuff. And then I made chief while it was kind of around that 6th year mark at Recon, and I went back to the infantry to be a battalion chief. And so I was running all the corpsmen. Infantry battalion has about 42 corpsmen, and maybe between 600 and 800 Marines coming and going. And so that's where I kind of cut my teeth as a new chief. Left there, and I made senior chief coming out of battalion chief duty. And I went to Navy Medicine Education Training Command, and so I was running education training programs for all across the Navy medicine community, and we had like mobile teams that would travel and teach tactical medicine or card classes, and, CPR and things for nurses and physicians and things as well. And then went from there, did a stint in Korea during COVID, went over to Korea, did some work, and I made Master Chief coming out of Korea, where my last duty station was Marine Corps Forces Central Command. And I was working for a 2-star general at the time, and we were responsible for all Marine Corps operations across the Middle East. And that was where ultimately I got medically retired. But I was bouncing around the Middle East for some time, for pretty much all the time during my tenure there. And on paper, I would say I was assigned to Tampa, but my work kept me overseas for most of that.
Gotcha. Well, at least when I was stationed in Naples, I dated a corpsman, and just it was interesting to see the variety of experiences at the hospital. But tell me about, when was it that you got that first case of bad news?
I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in January of 2018, and I woke up. I want to say Christmas Eve, and I had bilateral tingling and numbness in my thumbs, and I thought I had pinched a nerve in my back. And so I was spent all day doing stretching and trying to like figure out what I had done, because I know that I had done some things earlier that might have tweaked my back, and so I thought this was a symptom of it. And as it started to spread across my hands and spread up my arms and into my torso, um, and it continued through Christmas and things, we went to the ER, and that led to a neurology and so on. And so by January, all the tests, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and that was hard and scary at the time. And Ultimately, I fought. I went through a med board, and I fought and got cleared to stay in the service. And uh, and so that was kind of the first. That was the first thing that I thought, oh man, it's not just going to end my career. It's going to change my life. I made all these positive changes to my lifestyle and things like hoping to stay vertical. Right, MS is a very um, unpredictable disease process, and so it can be really scary. And so that was the first bit of bad news. And I was blessed to be cleared to stay in and continue serving. Um, Shortly after getting diagnosed, about 6 months later, I had to fight and prove that I could still do my job.
How did it go from this pinched nerve to finding out about the MS? Uh, was it something that showed up in an X-ray?
They
Did
do they do
some blood tests?
MRIs. Yeah, they do MRIs. They scan your brain and everything. So they'd X-rayed and CT'd everything. I didn't have a pinched nerve, and CTs aren't enough to diagnose MS. But what they need is a brain MRI, and they're looking for lesions. And I had multiple active lesions across my brain and in my C-spine. And they give you a high dose of prednisone to knock those out. And then I essentially get MRIs of my brain and spine every year to monitor and manage. And I see a neurologist every year to manage and monitor um, the disease process.